Here with Erica Wells Cox, the new owner of an upside down umbrella, and Rogan Smith, also one of the things.
And a Warwick winner.
Warwick. We'll be right back. Hey, Erica, if you can hear me, wave. No, I think she's in a concert. She's obviously not tuned into us, Rogan Smith. That's already a minus 10 points right there. So it's a power outage. Number one.
I wonder how many people listening tonight.
Elan wide.
Yeah, I hope that they're in their cars listening.
Yeah. Well, that's what
or
most
have generator.
People, yeah. Most of the people who listen to us listening on their cars, but they may not be because the lights are out, the traffic is flowing, so they might be home.
H-O-O-M. I know you was going to that home.
Like doom. You know? So it's our last show of the year, Rogan Smith. December 20th.
Need this break.
We're gonna have Erica Wells Cox on.
Yeah.
We were gonna have Quincy Parker on, but he couldn't make it. And let me just say this publicly: as a result, he doesn't get a gift. I've already ungifted him.
Mm-hmm. So I could take that.
Mm-hmm. No, you wouldn't. This wouldn't. Well, actually, it would apply to you.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know? Yeah. You don't know what it is.
Whatever it is, I could re-gift it to someone, so that's fine.
Well, no, but you can't re-gift a re-gift. That's
yes,
a rule.
You can.
No.
That's your rule.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jesus. Final show. Get a break from Eddie-O.
Oh, yeah, poet now, and you don't know it, El.
Poet and rhymer.
Yeah, you don't want a break from me.
Hi, Kendrick.
In fact, you won the thing, right? A prize, right?
Yeah, I'm still feeling so good about it.
Let me ask you a question. Did you have any cocktails there?
No, I don't drink.
I should ask, what's her name? Erica, to stop and get some vino.
We know.
Anyway, I should have got them.
No, I had water and fruit punch. And that's all I ever really get.
Okay,
there's
so
some good lemonade.
How you get drunk. So you wanted 2 nights to Warwick.
Yes.
Okay.
For our Christmas party.
I always say, look, you only need one night. When you get a free trip like that.
I'll remember that when you win something.
Well, I don't win. So, but when I do, I'll give it to you. So you have 2 choices. Mm-hmm. And I think, you have 2 choices, and you have to pick one.
Nope.
Okay? You can say nope all you want. You have to pick one.
Nope.
That's the rule. It's my show, and you pick the rule. The rule is...
I'm part of the show, and I disagree already.
Your vote is like a half. Your rule is, okay? The rule is either I have to spend the 2 nights with you, or you have to give me 1 night. It's up to you to pick. Or as we say in the Bahamas, it's ups to you.
It's ups to you. I still hate that. Okay. Oh, my goodness.
We just managed to pluralize some things. Hey, how you get to ups? Anyway. So I'm sure that by this time, is Erica Wells Cox out of her car yet?
She's probably waiting around.
Okay.
You ready to look in her face?
No, I just want to, because I'm going to do the gift, and I want to, you all have it at the same time.
I'll text her and let her know.
I'm sure you're finished with all your, she says, do we want coffee?
Ooh, she's very nice.
Did you get the coffee? Did you get the coffee?
Ask her if she have enough for me.
You selfish bad now.
What? She means you. She's obviously going to bring it for you.
No, she said you guys.
And then this Kendrick are you coffee drinker?
They shouldn't bring you none.
You okay? You sure? You wouldn't want
Come on up now. Come now. Come on up now. Nah.
NAH.
NA, just nah. So, now I don't know if this area is calm because of the traffic thing, or if the traffic is shifted to Mom.
Mom or the mall?
Mall at Marathon. Mall of Marathon, yeah. Ma'am. I guess Ma'am. Mall at Marathon, right? Ma'am.
You said Mom?
I said Mom, yeah. I was thinking Mall.
I think that's what it is.
Because I know they'll probably Wiley.
Yeah, man. Where's Hope? Where was Hope broadcasting from?
The next time, is she coming back on? That was the last.
That was the last
drop.
Oh,
okay, that's, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that's radio talk for the moment. When they go to the last drop. So not good, not like Maxwell House.
Good to the last drop.
Yeah, remember that commercial?
I do.
And when I was a kid and I used to see that commercial, I used to think, boy, I want some of that coffee bad.
I used to want to be in the States in a house with white people drinking coffee.
Yeah, well, you have other issues.
That's what the
I just wanted
the commercials weren't very diverse.
I just wanted the coffee. I didn't want to be in anyone's house.
I just want to be in the house.
I figured we could just buy the coffee.
Wow.
But I wasn't allowed to drink coffee when I was a kid. It was kind of like, no, you can't have the coffee. That's for adults. You can have tea.
Ugh.
You know?
Milo.
And let me tell you, tea, if you drink tea and you leave that tea bag in and you drink that tea, that throw you off wasted coffee.
Bitter.
No, not bitter, just caffeine well.
Oh, not all tea bags have caffeine.
Especially we used to get that Tops tea we used to drink in the morning.
Oh.
Anyway, but so good to the last drop. But so you've done all your things.
I made a pledge. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm going to buy gifts for 4 people.
Did you buy them?
And that, yes, I'm done.
Okay.
And that's it. And I meant that. I said that the last time, didn't I, Kendrick? And that is a wrap on that.
I'm calling Erica Wells Cox on the air. She's walking. Oh, she's in the building. Okay, well, I don't have to call her that. Why did you let me do that, Ken? What kind of producer
Well, he
are you?
didn't. It was you announced that you were calling her, and he announced that you already walked into the building.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there she goes.
There's Erica Wells Cox.
Come on in.
I guess you didn't bring us any cough.
Go there, you know.
No, he wants you to come
No,
in.
we want you to come here. Did you Did you once you didn't get a response, you just chose to default to no?
Because I didn't know what you wanted.
Well, I'm not a coffee drinker anyway.
But
so
I did the next best thing.
Tea baggie.
No.
What is?
I got you some coffee coupons.
Oh my God.
So you can.
Gift time.
So this is for the Ed Fields Live show.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So nice.
Well,
Are you cold?
Yes, girl. I was to my company party, so I don't have.
Oh, I see.
I thought it was my Venus jacket.
Show. Let me count these now. It's 1, 2, 3.
It's like 5, I believe.
4, 5. You know about these, eh?
I gift
so
those to people.
You get 1.
Yeah.
Ken gets 1. I get 3.
What happened to Candy?
She's not here.
And I guess I don't count.
Well, you have a coffee.
Give me mine now so I can get it on my way home. That's
so
nice.
Anyway,
Thank you, Erica.
Let me just say what this is. I wanted you to come up early because Quincy Parker was supposed to come. He can't make it.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
So we're going to share his gift. We're not he just get gift out. Okay? All right. But it's gift time. So you get the coffee coupon.
Thank you, Erica.
Okay.
How sweet.
Now,
I'm glad I came prepared.
This is for Rogan.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
This is for Kendrick. Here you go, Kendrick.
Aren't you sweet?
But I know about Ed's gift ideas,
This
you know.
is for you, Erica Wells Cox. And this is for you as well. These are the upside down umbrellas. You know that?
Thank you so much.
Thing. Isn't it exciting, though?
This is you,
I love Christmas.
There you go.
Thank you, Ed.
Kendrick. And you give that to Ed, please.
This is really... Ooh.
That's his card.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fields.
Yes, thank you.
How sweet of you.
Kendrick, that's not yours.
Huh?
Hold on, change that around. Change that around. That's not for you.
Thank you.
That's not yours.
I like the bags and all.
A reverse clothes
so let me show you how
umbrella.
it works.
Yes, please do. Although we shouldn't open them
Yes,
inside.
we don't care.
Okay.
It's a reverse one, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so it reverses the luck. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see there.
So this is the thing about this. It's very exciting, very thrilling, and that's because of this.
That is so
Now, the
bomb.
reason why
I wish you could see this,
Do you know
listeners.
Why this is like this? Do you know why this is like this?
I
Why
know.
you do it this way?
Why?
So when you get into your car.
Look at that. Do it again. Oh
That
my
is
God.
very
Hold on.
clever. I love
You
it.
see that?
That is
do
so
it.
You see
clever.
that? That's like that, right?
Yeah.
So you know how you usually get in your car and it opens this way and it's kind of it's
All the water comes
And you-
in.
this
and
way
you gotta-
can now just do it this way,
Boom.
shake it out, and by the way, it
Look at
also
that.
stands up.
Oh my
To drain.
goodness. That is freaking brilliant.
Good one. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
A useful,
And
an
that's
actual,
An actual useful gift.
gift.
That was really good. This
So
way.
there you have it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much.
Did you look at that? So I'm wearing an ask. I didn't expect that. So I like ascot, as you can see.
Yes, I think it's very classy, Ed.
And so Regan Smith bought me several ascots.
There wasn't a great
Also,
variety, but
to be known as cravats.
Well, I love cravats. Like I can't decide
And
which
of
one I
course,
like
socks.
better.
That almost matches my socks.
you
Look
know, you
at
have like
that.
1,000 socks. It's
Yes.
so hard to shop for you.
You look very sharp today, Ed. I must
Thank you.
say.
And that was my jacket, but she took it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
she's yeah.
So I hope you like the socks.
Oh, I love the socks and I love the cravats.
There you go.
They would be
How
warm.
often do you wear the cravats?
Well, the good thing about being at a certain age, one can wear, and y'all didn't even see what I have in the car, but I was scared to bring that up because I had a beret. I had a yellow beret.
Ooh,
A
I gotta take a
yellow
picture.
beret to match
to go
the
with
pants.
the pants and all that.
And
Yes.
goes with your socks.
Yes.
And your socks.
So when you're a certain point in life, you can just get away with stuff. So, you can get away with ascons. You see,
But
when
not
you're 20,
no.
When you're 22, one can't get away with ascons.
Well,
You
I
don't
just
think that?
I don't agree with you.
You don't?
I don't think that
Everyone can get
even
it?
at 50 you can get away with ascots. You have to be able to carry it,
You have to be able to carry it.
and you wear it well, Ed.
Oh, I love an ascot.
Well, I'm
There you have
happy. I couldn't decide.
How you knew that?
And where did you find ascots?
Okay, how do you pronounce
'cause
it? Is it
you had to
Fine or?
You had to go
Oh.
online.
No. Right here, not Rosetta Street.
Rosetta.
Next to like.
Palmdale.
That's Rosetta Street, like by Mike's Tailoring.
With matching pockets.
Oh,
Yeah.
in that little plaza.
In that little plaza,
where
yeah.
the barber shop
That's
is.
right, you got it.
Ah,
Very good.
So I'm happy
I am.
that you like it.
I'm very excited
Oh,
about
hold
my
on.
umbrella.
Me too, right?
Oh, by the way, you also have you have various gifts. You have a
I do.
stocking.
Should I? Oh, I didn't open up my stuff.
And you have
Hold
more
on.
than one gift in there, I think, Erica.
Look at this.
Because you have to give many gifts.
I like this color too.
I'm gonna put this under my tree. Oh.
Oh.
Oh, I
It's
have
a
never been to
stocking.
Joker's Wild, Ed.
Well,
It's
now
a
you have.
stocking. Yeah. We got
A
two.
literal-
I know just who to carry. This is a good day.
Oh, cute.
What's that? Nail
Ken,
kit. Nail
you're not
kitting.
opening your gift?
Yes.
Guess what?
Which is very
What's that?
useful.
Erica, I
Would
always
you
have these
focus
hang
on
nails,
that?
and I swear I
Don't
always
open
ask
the
my
gift.
coworker for her stuff. You gotta
You
open
have
it
Leave that
too.
alone and open the
You
gift.
have to
This
open
is
up
brilliant.
While I
the
enjoy a Powerade.
And I like the color too. He's such a nice boss.
Very thoughtful.
Look here. My
And-
friend Thea would be very happy to see me have this. 'Cause she's sick and tired of me clipping my nails with her stuff. And that is real talk.
Very good.
I like. Where you got these stockings from, though? You go to
The
these
stocking
online,
shop.
eh? We get a stocking
There's
shop,
a
eh?
stocking shop.
Where you get this from, for Drew?
People who I'm associated with buy things in bulk.
Oh, okay. These
I
are
think I know
brilliant.
you're talking about. There's never.
They buy like a gross or
Nice
something.
I'll just
I
take a
love this.
container because
You never know when
Sorry,
you're
Radio
around.
Land,
Exactly.
that y'all don't get to see this. What is this? Is this a bomb?
Oh, you know what that is? Oh, no. Did it break off? Piece broke off. Come here. Look in the bag.
Oh,
Look
okay.
in the stocking.
Okay.
You're going to like this one. Look at that. You see like a little propeller?
Oh,
Let me
Oh,
show
a fan.
Right.
So I put it in my phone.
Phone. Let me show you. Give me that.
This is perfect
for when you have a hot
flashes.
flash,
I was- you know
which
who I
you're
wanna
quite
get
a
one?
ways away
You know who I
from.
want to get one, who I thought about getting one of these for?
Who that?
There's only one person who could possibly think about this. Erica,
Who?
you must know her.
Yeah, I mean, I have a thought
There's
based
one
on an
person.
experience on the show.
Yes, who is that?
Nicolette.
Correct.
Do you
She
know?
knows the fan. But
Listen,
instead,
it was
I always tell you
hilarious.
that fans make you hotter because you have the fan. But
But-
now you can just do this.
So Nicolette was fanning herself. I
She-
don't want
she
to make the
has-
same mistake.
no,
And
but she
Ed
always
goes,
has a
"Wait,
fan."
Nicolette, you're causing like a storm in the mic."
Oh, I didn't realize that. But she always fans. She always has a fan. And so I thought of her immediately when I saw it because when you fan, you actually make yourself hotter because
this
you're
is so
exerting
cool.
energy.
Try
Are
it.
you
I
plugging
want to
right
see
now?
it. I
I
want
hope
to
this
see
works
it.
for Android. 'cause
You like
have,
that?
You have what you
Yeah.
call it.
Those
What
I got
is-
myself a
It's
set of
Android.
those as well. Those are wireless
Oh.
phones.
Let me see that.
Yeah, you see it.
Oh,
Quite.
nice.
And
You know what?
Parker,
Because he always
if Parker had come, and ain't nothing happened for Parker.
Yeah, this is
If
this
he
is my
had come,
iPhone.
he would have gotten. I'm going to keep it for myself.
Let me see.
Sorry, because I wanted it anyway.
So it
It's a
worked
barber
out.
kit,
It is
like a facial.
I thought about giving Ken this, but I don't know if he still rides. It's a bicycle repair set.
Oh.
Just,
see?
oh,
Does
right,
Quincy
because
ride?
Quincy
Yeah, well, you
rides.
can have this thing.
There you go. Boom.
Quincy,
Yeah.
Quincy.
Yeah, but the bike doesn't get flat. Trust me.
Because it don't get
And
used.
why
In
is
fact,
that?
it's always flat.
Is
It
it?
just needs a pump here. It doesn't need repair.
So this is awesome, but I have to try this on my other phone. I think this is for iPhone.
Oh, it is for
I have
iPhone.
Android.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here,
but I
let
can-
me just plug it
Okay,
in
plug it
here,
in. Let's
just
see.
so we
Yes,
can see how it
yeah.
works.
Yeah, just plug it in. Oh, you can turn it around too. So you
That's
yeah.
so neat. Is it cool, eh?
It is
Of course.
wonderful.
Yeah,
It is wonderful.
Oh yeah, that's off the chain.
hmm
Oh yeah.
It's for the ladies. In fact, it's called fangirl or
yeah.
something like that. They didn't have a fanboy. Because obviously we
Fangirl.
don't get hot like that.
Perfect. Thank you
Obviously.
so much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
What's that? Yeah, man, no problem.
Oh, you see
Thank
that?
Quincy Parker.
Yeah, that's good for you,
Okay.
Quincy.
Thank the Parker man. All right. That's the end of that. We'll take a break. We'll be back. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened over the
year
course
that
of the
was.
year. And good evening. That's vampire speak.
Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula. Which is a completely different thing from Christmas. So we have here Erica Wells Cox and Rogan Smith, and we don't have a very planned show today, but we can manage because we're going to talk about what happened during the course of the year. Now, the only thing that I recall during the course of the year for me is I turned 60. I don't really remember much other things, and it's probably because
so
I turned
much
60.
went on.
Okay, the only thing I remember is Trump. I know there's a lot of Trump, so we'll talk. I mean, I don't even. What can you say? There's nothing to talk about.
Well, you've heard the latest.
No. When?
Mattis is out. He's leaving the end of February.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
And that's because of the Syria thing, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Because
He just couldn't.
Trump just say we leaving.
Right, unbelievable. But it feels
But
like
you know why
it's
he does that? Why
dog
he did that.
years. Yeah, to
Yeah, it
detract.
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
Yeah, it feels like
yeah.
too much has gone on.
Are you one of those people who's like completely tuned into
She's
Trumpisms,
MSNBC,
like
yeah.
always watching and see his movements?
I wouldn't say I go that far, but I do watch MSNBC a lot. Yeah.
Like from
Right.
7 to 11. You go to 11 to 12?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless I have to
lineup.
wake up early,
Yeah,
but I
the
go
lineup.
to at least 10 because I have to watch Rachel Maddow.
I was gonna say, are you a Rachel
no, I have to
Maddow
watch
watcher?
Last Word. I'm not
You
big
like
on
Lawrence
Rachel.
enough?
Rachel bothers me.
Yeah, we don't want to
We
talk
went through that
about
already.
this.
We
Yeah,
went
we
through that
already
already.
had this
The whole
conversation.
you know, the other day I watched her show, and she got to 9:30 without a guest or anything.
Well, she never has. She doesn't
She rarely has
She
guests.
rarely has
She
guests.
has guests, and she does
Really?
interviews, you know,
Yeah.
but she doesn't have
But she
like,
doesn't have the talking heads, which
No.
I appreciate.
But then it's boring when you just have her repeating the same thing over and over. She won't get to the point.
My mommy loves her to death.
I
God, she
yeah,
loves
I
Your people are obviously not concise people.
I've been told I'm long-winded.
Because she could go on, man.
Yeah,
No.
you know what irritates me though, and I think this is the first time I'm willing to admit this.
Uh-huh.
You know, when she's going over like court proceedings, she will read the transcripts.
Oh my God.
That bothers
And you
me.
know what I find
I
about
have to
that?
say that bothers me.
I find when I see that, you know what I find? I find that is someone who really doesn't have, there's not a lot of depth in that. You just get the transcript and read it.
Yeah, but she does do analysis of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you could accuse
you know
her of
what
a
I'm
lot
saying.
of things,
I'm
but
not saying she doesn't have depth.
yeah, she's
I'm saying it's not that there's no depth in that.
right. Well,
maybe you have
she's got her A block is famous, right? So her A block is like 20 minutes long, and that's her
Yeah.
monologue,
Yeah.
and that's what irritates you
'Cause she
because
just
she does
repeats.
kind of build up and she repeats herself.
Because
'Cause
the
you-
water that we got, not the water that they got now, the water that they got, WATER, the wet stuff, not soda,
It's not
Not
that bad,
beer.
Ken.
and it's not canned, it's bottled water, water in a bottle.
That annoys me.
Jeez,
Okay, let's
I
not.
got it.
We're not saying bad things about Rachel Maddow while I'm here.
That's what we both.
Yeah, anyway, only because she has the same hairstyle as you, that's all.
Yes, we're kindred spirits that
How
way.
would you guys sum up like if you had to use one word to describe 2018? What's the one word you'd use to describe everything that transpired this year?
Locally or
Locally.
worldwide? Oh boy.
For me, it was loud, and I'll say why because, usually, and I said this when I was on Jerome's show last week. Typically, when it comes to a lot of things, Bahamians, we mouth off on the talk shows, we do the letters to the editor, but it doesn't really sustain. I don't feel like we tend to be very passive and very docile. So it was kind of refreshing to me to see Bahamians just taking to the streets. I mean, like every single day, it seemed like there was something that they were making a big deal about. It just felt like a very loud year about if they were mouthing off about Dr. Minnis and the F&M administration, if we were talking about BPL, whatever. It just seemed like it was a bit louder this year than in previous years for me.
I kind of actually felt, we had, if you recall, we had Obie Ferguson on the show. And in fact, that was kind of ironic because during that show, we literally said to him, things have been quiet. And which he agreed because at that point, there was no union. Yeah, I mean, there was no union scenario.
Like up until that point.
Until that point. And then you had the doctors and then the hotel. And I can tell you off here what a lot of issues were around that. But I actually thought that in terms of previous years, it was actually kind of quiet. Obviously, BPL kind of was there was a lot of issues around BPL because of the change of the board and all that kind of stuff. But BPL has been in the loud category for like 40 years, as far as I'm concerned. They got blackout pictures.
But do you think that people's increasing use of social media makes it seem more loud because there's a lot more platforms between the talk shows, and now there's Facebook and WhatsApp and what else? Lord knows what else.
You're absolutely right.
And maybe that's why I didn't see him as loud from because I've completely removed myself from Facebook.
Right.
I don't listen to radio shows.
No.
So I don't hear the loudness.
Very,
I guess.
very loud to me.
Yeah.
Especially like when it came to the plane crash with Byron Ferguson, just hearing the outcry from the Bahamians again on a lot of these social media platforms.
Don't you think Bahamians have always made noise per issue and then it goes quiet? I mean, think of the road building you couldn't get more louder than say 2016, 2017. It was a lot of loudness then.
It just seemed like we were weighing in on a lot of things this year. I mean, we had not the introduction of VAT, but the increase in VAT this year. It just seemed like there were so many issues hitting back to back. Oban deal. Bahamians were just so vocal on that. The purchase of the hotel in Grand Bahama, they were so vocal on that. The plane crash, vocal on that. It just seemed. Even the economy, you know what I mean? It just seemed like we had more input this year. Well,
do you think, though, that people have a tendency to only be vocal on the negative stuff?
Well, here's the situation. I'm saying this. I can track back in my mind easily the last 10 years. And Bahamians are always loud when something is in the news. It goes loud and then it goes down. Then something else replaces it constantly. I mean, I can go, I remember when they were building the roads.
Yeah.
I mean, that was screaming.
Well, that was screaming, and that had an effect.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But now that everybody is benefiting from the roads, well, I mean, I think
you don't hear it screaming
exactly.
For the benefit,
I mean, but naturally, people they're not looking long term. They respond to what's in front of them immediately.
Yeah, they're very visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is you don't even expect people. I don't have any expectation at all of people to make noise when something's good.
Right.
I just don't have that expectation.
Yeah, no, and it's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'll never forget? And Rogan, I don't think you were in media just yet because I had just started at the Tribune.
Yeah, then I wasn't.
Remember the uproar about Goodman's Bay?
Yep. I had a show on it with Code Smith.
No.
Listen.
you
listen.
This is how we are. We're very. They were trying to put a park at Goodman's Bay.
Yeah, like how it is now.
Now it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Big problem.
Huge. It was marches in the street.
You had all the residents in the area thought they were going to be overrun by jet ski operators. When ironically, if you I don't know if you recall this. People may not remember this, but it used to be where the jet ski operators used to offload somewhere around by where that little stretch of beach is between kind of like where you pass go slow and you're going toward the Prime Minister's office. There's a little stretch of beach
to the east of Goodman's Bay.
Yeah, to the east.
Like to the park, right?
Yeah, I mean it's before you reach the Prime Minister's office. There's a little area there. You know where that house with the white wall?
Yeah, with the Greek flag.
Right. Yeah.
That's where they used to offload the jet skis. And people used to literally block traffic.
Right.
They used to block traffic.
I remember.
And the reason they went to Goodman's Bay was to get them from blocking traffic.
Right.
And there were 2 or 3 special interests because they lived nearby. And they caused a big uproar. We know who they are.
Yes, we do.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know who they are directly.
Yes, I'm
okay?
very familiar.
Yeah. Familiar, like like Italian. And the thing is, okay, Code Smith came on my I'll never forget, Tommy Turnquist was the minister.
Yeah, I remember.
And I had him on, and Code Smith kept calling me during the day to come on the show. I said, no, I have Tommy on, you can come another time. He literally showed up to the show. But we had an argument that day, because, and you know what he said to me, and I have no problem disclosing it now. He says, I said, Code, people want a platform. What's the problem with creating a parking lot and a place for the jet skis to go to?
And a green space.
And a green space.
With a playground.
You know what he said? This is a quote. Well, you're hurting the environment. I said, well, what are you hurting? He goes, well, there are ants and lizards and things there. And I remember saying to him, I said, look, do me a favor. I was sitting in my chair next to my phone in my house on Soldier Road. I said, look, don't let no one hear you say that, okay? I ain't gonna tell no one you tell me that. I'll never forget.
And that was about 20 years ago. But I will never forget it, because what I couldn't understand, remember, the parking was so unsafe. There was the casuarina trees. There was no place to park.
Right.
The residents, whomever, you couldn't enjoy the beach in a safe way.
Trail.
You didn't have the walking trail. You didn't have the playground.
Yeah.
You didn't have that designated green space.
That's right.
And at the time, I remember thinking, what am I missing? Because I don't understand why there's such an uproar. But now, people don't even remember that,
no.
right? They don't remember that.
But it's a great example you bring up.
Yeah,
because you know why? You bring up something that shows that people just react. They don't think anything through. Because what would have been the alternative?
They react just to react. It's the same with Saunders Beach. Remember
Saunders
the
Beach.
uproar? Remember the uproar about Saunders?
Beach.
Oh, they're putting sea grape trees. It's like, okay, so casuarina trees.
They
bringing in sand.
Yeah, I do remember that.
But it's, you know why? Let me tell you why. There are segments of the community, and hasn't changed, who for selfish reasons manage to spark some sort of uproar, and the people who are sparking the uproar get completely lost in the thing. And then this is what happens. It's happening now. It's happening. It's going to happen again. Happens in the United States. For political reasons, the politicians get in.
Right.
And then it becomes, well, this is the government doing this.
Right.
And that's what happened with Saunders Beach. And that's, I think, what happened with Oban. That's what happened with the roads.
Yeah, the roads. Ooh, the roads. Yeah. I mean, that costs a party, though.
So we've always, I think, to your point, Rogan, we've always been loud. I don't know if it's changed. I think the loudest we've been, though, is 2016.
But it felt there was a lot going on this year. I felt every time you turned around.
Yeah, there was an issue and people were weighing in on it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about 2018. It's gone. It's almost gone. How many more days we got? 15? No, 11. 11 days to go. Yeah, today's the 20th. We'll be right back. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Erica Wells Cox. We talk about this social media impact, and we'll talk about it in the 2018 context of the Bahamas. But just the other day, Facebook got chastised before Congress. The Washington, D.C. Attorney General is suing Facebook because of private information being shared with clients like Royal Bank and Google and all these things.
Netflix.
And Netflix.
You said private messages,
Yeah,
Erica?
private messages and photographs and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Okay, and so they show with
level.
76% of people at one point I forget what it was using Facebook. It went down to like 40-something% saying they're using it. And then now it's like 26% that they're just getting off of it altogether.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that on Twitter where people are
Just
shutting
removing the
down.
app.
Yeah. They're just moving off of it.
Yeah.
But you got to think, right? So what did people think Facebook was doing with all of this information anyway? I mean,
I don't think people even didn't think about it.
I mean, because
they just hit agree.
Yeah, they don't read the
no,
right?
Because you need to hit agree in order to get the thing.
Right. Yeah. So you're like, I want the quiz. I want to know the results of my quiz.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just to if you want to download Calm or something.
I think they probably
thought
that the extent to what was being shared, amounted to demographics. Like your age and your gender and different stuff like that. Maybe where you live, the area you live, but not getting personal, like messages and photos.
The naked pictures you sent to your girlfriend, that kind of stuff. You didn't think they were doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Which way did you think it was going?
Do you have any expectation of privacy when you're online?
None.
I don't have, not even when I send emails.
No, I agree with you. I just accept the fact that
hopefully you're off your radar.
Yeah. Right.
You just figure you hope that you're off the radar.
I just say, listen.
And so boom.
Yeah.
Okay. But so that's scary stuff, and I have a feeling that you're going to see a major retrenching in how that. We talked about this before, in how that those platforms are out there. It's too much damage.
Right.
I mean, forget about the damage of personal attacks, etc. Right? Just the damage of, and I know I was in it, of being where you're just always checking and looking to see what the comment was or what the response was, or getting engaged all the time with people that you don't need to be engaged with.
Yeah, that's why I took it off my phone. Because you get to a point where you stop at a light and you can't just be alone with your thoughts. You have to pick up your phone and you have to check.
Yeah.
And you have to see. But I think it will come full circle. I don't think it'll come full circle. But I think we will start to look at how we use it.
Yeah.
And change the way we use it. Well, and I think the situation with Facebook and being sued, I think they're going to be forced.
Yeah.
Talking about, again, going back to what happened, BPL probably in my mind was the biggest issue. And, I saw, and I do still monitor Facebook. I still go on and check it out. I don't respond. But there was this issue because the power went off. Like it's back on now, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it was off.
The power was off. And I said to someone who's known to us, I said, let me tell you this, and this may sound like a gross analogy, but I thought it was a decent analogy. The government has announced that they're going to have, that they plan to have an LNG station by 2022. Okay? Now, when you think about all of the previous regimes, no matter which government it was, no one made a decision, an announcement as to when something's going to happen in terms of a sea change, right?
Right.
From fossil fuel, they're all fossil fuels, but from oil to gas.
Mm-hmm.
So a decision has been made. But between then and now, like the roads, there's pain.
Yep.
So I said to the person, I said, imagine if you're in the middle of John Bull and you're lactose intolerant and you just had a week of eating ice cream and all of a sudden it starts to bubble up. And they tell you that the closest bathroom is on the 4th floor. Well, you have a choice to make. Okay? You got to get to that 4th floor. And between getting to that 4th floor and the 1st floor, there's going to be a lot of pain.
Right.
And so you have decisions to make every step of the way.
Yep.
You can endure the pain and get to the bathroom,
or
you can just let it go and get relief, or you can just let it go, and then that's a whole another scenario.
Right.
Okay?
Still off in the West.
What's that?
Still one of
Still
our
off in the West.
listeners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably around here because of the hospital and stuff like that. So we BPL to me is one of those scenarios where the loudness buries out the reality, right? Yes, we are all thin on patience, but a plan has been announced, and something that and there's no store that I'm aware of where you can go and buy an LNG plant.
Right.
It has to be built. Okay? So, if the person tells you we're going to build the plant, it's going to be 2022. It's like if you want to build a house. If you live in a place that you don't like and you bought a piece of land and you're going to build a house, you can't go to the contractor the next day and say, listen, we're the damn house.
But people want, they're not interested in what's going to happen 3 years down the road. No. But when 2022 comes, they will be reaping the benefits of...
Or riotous if it doesn't happen.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's a whole other thing.
And by the way, you can't wait till 2022 to I need to see some blocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Everything
I need to see some blocks. I need some blocks by a minimum.
Get to the infrastructure.
The latter part of 2019,
right.
I need to see some blocks. I'm digging some tractors and crane and
there needs to be a little bit of strategy employed.
Yeah. Some action. Mm-hmm. See, that's where it is. Okay. So that's what I hope, and I hope that we, just someone just told me the other day, a good friend of mine, Rick Lowe, he wouldn't mind me saying it. He went down to national insurance to get his national insurance thing, and he was told he doesn't need to do that anymore.
What do you mean?
To get your business license, you got to get your national insurance thing. You have to go down to national insurance, get your letter, good standing. He said, no, you don't need to do that anymore. They will just advise business license if there's a problem.
Oh, bravo.
Now, the first thing is, miscommunications people, how come he didn't know that? Because he still had to go stand on the line.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
This is like last week.
But that was in the papers.
Well, see, there you go. I didn't know it. That's the point about communication. You can't say to people, if there's 5,000 things that they need to know.
Oh.
Okay, that's the end of that.
No.
Well, I guess our generator will come back on. Are we still on? Okay.
Oh, wow.
You can't just say to people, because our generator here has to kick in, I guess. You can't say to people 5,000 things every day.
Right. No, there has to be a strategy.
Yeah.
But that's a very good point, though. That's a very good point about these that's a major thing.
That's a major thing.
In terms of ease of doing business.
Right.
And that not being known.
But it was made known.
It was made known.
But don't they have these people's email addresses where they can just sort of like do a mass email out to the people who have I mean, I have to think like this.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying, but you know what?
Mass email blast to people who are in the system and say, okay, these are the new requirements, or you don't have to go through XYZ anymore.
Well, you can only do but so much, right? So you have your various platforms. You use those platforms. You're not going to hit everybody.
No.
But
he may even have read it and then forgot.
Right.
I mean, I may have read it and forgot. I mean, it's that's why I say, only time and feeling it will happen. Now, he was quite happy.
Of course.
Because, I had to stand online, but then, I was told I don't have to get it and I don't have to come back.
But what I don't understand is this part.
There should have been a line or a sign at the place.
Right. They didn't wake up 2 weeks ago and know this was going to happen. Right. They knew that this was going to happen. It would be effective on a certain date.
Right.
Why wasn't more education done leading up to it?
Or even, like you say, you go to the building and you go and you see a sign that says, if you're waiting for your national insurance good standing letter, you don't need this anymore. Thank you. Have a pleasant day.
Simple. Yeah, that's true.
So at least you didn't stand online to hear, you don't need to be here. These are the little tiny things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And but you just hope that bit by bit, drop by drop, you'll start to see these kind of impediments go away. And the question is, though, will the government or any government benefit from those improvements if people feel, I don't know, do you think it makes a difference? Or is it still at the bottom line, the pocket?
Well, I mean, I think the pocket is huge, but I do think the little things can make a difference.
Yeah. I would love to see in this town, and I know maybe the focus isn't put on here, but I saw something that I was talking to someone, I forget who it was, about tax dollars going to things like green spaces and recreation, etc., right? I know what it was. I was talking with some people who were looking out for some sports tourism. And basically what they're saying is municipalities in the States now, when they used to take money from green spaces, from sports facilities for the public to use, and all those things, they're now putting it back in because they realize that all of the other issues that they have are related to them pulling back those dollars. So if you have places where kids can play,
right,
those kids are not going to try to break into a house. If you have places where people can go and recreate, those people are going to be less stressed out.
If your neighborhood is clean.
If your neighborhood is clean.
If your surroundings are clean. No, that stuff makes a difference.
And that's why I always focus on this stuff, because this is the stuff you endure every day, right? When you're driving to work every single day and you have to pass the same garbage heap every day, that's a negative thing in your mind. But if you drive by a nice scenic ocean front every day, that has a whole different feel to it.
And the thing is that we are in a unique situation where we do.
And
right?
we could do it without having to be piled up in traffic simply because you can't get out of a fast food place without crossing the road. You can prevent that from happening. We've got to take a break and we'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Erica Wells-Cox. So do you think, Rogan and Erica, that we're somehow focused on we have big problems There's no doubt about it. And those problems are going to take a lot of time to turn around.
Some of them, yeah.
But do you think that there's any focus, and I know it's cliche, on the low-hanging fruit, little things that can make life easier? Do you think there's any focus on that?
Not for me. I don't think that Bahamians in general. Well, I don't know. Let me not generalize. I think there are people who would say yes, they're happy to have these tiny successes, but I think when we're living in an environment where we don't have reliable power generation, where every time we go to the food store, we're watching our dollars not stretch the way they ought to, when we're driving on roads that we don't feel are up to par, or we're dealing with government agencies that aren't as efficient as we'd like for them to be, it's very difficult to take, to feel good about those tiny successes, because it's just those overarching things that just.
But if
that
those
just
things
bother
were
us.
resolved, so for instance, look at the traffic, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
If traffic were managed, the reality is that the impact on your cost of gas would go down, because you're not sitting in traffic burning fuel. You're not wasting, an hour or 2 hours every day. Because, I mean, you think about it, a parent who drops a kid to school, they're in traffic 3.5 hours a day.
Oh, yeah. And think about the loss in manpower, like productivity.
Right. But just the angst. We talked about this before. I had the fortune of not having to pick up. We had a carpool when my kid was going to school here. I couldn't imagine waking up every morning thinking, I got to go do this, and then I got to leave work and get in traffic. I just can't imagine it. It seems like torture to me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remove these things from people's daily lives, right? So even if they have to pick them up, but at least it's a smooth drive, okay? I mean, I can imagine if you live at, say, Charlottesville, and you're taking your child to Windsor school, I don't think that's a big pressure for you.
Right. No, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you got to,
St. Andrews,
and you got to, it's
St.
like, oh
Anne's.
no.
You have to wake
You
up
want to
at
say, like,
5
you know what?
o'clock
You ain't going to school no more, okay?
Put him on a slingshot.
I don't believe in education.
School bus.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Do you think there's a focus? I mean, how do you view it?
Don't think there is. I think we were talking about say this traffic at going. So look at it. And I don't live in the South, and I know it's bad there too. So I'm being very selfish. But there's a traffic jam going west, and we call it a traffic jam. It's 10 minutes. It's a traffic jam from Marcus Bethel Way to Saunders Beach.
Yes.
Okay, every day.
I know.
Okay.
And it's a bad one, relatively speaking.
Yeah, it takes a while, right?
Yeah.
And it's all relative, because it's a short distance, so it shouldn't take that long. And it's exasperated by our impatience, because we then have to go through St. Albans or Chippenham Road.
That's what I do.
Or Port Paul Track, so we only create more of a problem, right?
But that makes no difference. But anyway, that's fine.
I just like to feel like my car's moving.
That cut, you end up in the same thing.
You end up in the same spot.
It doesn't
but you're
matter.
moving, so that's okay.
So you feel like
until you get to the ball track and then you jam up again. But the reality is that it probably cost, let's just say, I'm going to put a number at it, $1 million to solve that problem. And simply by putting a roundabout up a Paul track and putting a median, it's planned. I have the plan, the drawings, and putting a median from Paul track to Saunders Beach so that people aren't crossing traffic. Anytime you have a road that is just flowing and there's no crossover in traffic, you don't have a problem.
Right.
Case in point, the gate at Western Esplanade. Okay? We put a gate there to stop people from making the shortcut. Now the traffic flows, because people aren't interrupting the flow of traffic.
Right.
Okay? So you're figuring out what I mean.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm
Smith knows.
Yeah,
you know what gate at Western Esplanade?
You tell her.
No, so I'm quite familiar with it, because I used to be one of those people who used to cut through there when I used to go West Bay Street. So it's where's the corner, like when you go into Awaki?
Okay.
There's a corner opposite the cricket club that you would go. You turn that if you're heading east on West Bay Street, you make a left.
Right.
And it'll make you feel like you're going to the fish fry.
So you fry by
you go all the way around.
And then come out by Dockendale.
And you come out by Dockendale House.
And cut past all them people.
So you can't do that now?
No, not Monday through Friday.
Huh.
They close
and that is
and as a result, traffic flows because no one can jump in the middle.
As a result, I go Tony Williams Darling Highway.
No, but now you can. I've spoken to numerous amount of people who said that has made a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's some other issues, because now people cut and they're still cutting through like Pitt Road and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're looking to turn those south. So we don't see Bahamians are unique. They could not survive in that traffic we showed about LA.
Why don't you get rid of that traffic that traffic light right there by
Nassau Street. It's
and
a safety issue. All of these. Look here.
That's the
you
problem
see
right
why
there.
traffic is flowing now? Because the lights are
off.
Okay, and so that the street lights don't impede traffic.
Right.
But it's a safety issue as well coming out of those corners. So, so the point is that we have a unique makeup in this country. We do not like lines. Okay?
Who likes
and you know
lines?
what? No. If you go to the United States of America and you go to the movies, they will stand on the line and the line will flow. But how we go is this. When you get to the movie, if the line have more than 5, the first thing you look on is who I know to the front of the line. That's my move.
Excuse me. I've also lived in the States, and I've seen people doing that very same thing.
And when it happens, you know what happens?
It depends. Nothing happened.
Excuse me. We're all in the line. In here, you do that. People say, no, but David says, "Hey, mama, you think he's crazy? Why are you in the line? They can't confront no one."
They start muttering.
Most Bahamians don't know because they don't. Because usually the people in the States, if you do it to them, they might back down. If you do it to some of the brothers around here,
you go to Magic Johnson Theater and try.
You got a problem with your white hippie because we get it like that. That's how we get it. Okay?
And then you're like, okay.
Okay. So we just deal with it because we're afraid. But the reality is people just go, we don't like lines. Now, I'm not talking about no one likes lines.
No one likes
Could you imagine what would happen in the United States, in L.A., if my man Tongue Bully and them was in L.A.?
You know, with Tongue Bully?
I don't know what Tongue Bully is.
You know, in the States they have them shoulders, right?
Oh, people would be driving up on.
You know the shoulders? Where the police say don't go? You know, Tongue Bully and that was going to be a deal.
Oh, it's Tongue Bully.
Tongue Bully, he said he saw somebody driving a car one time. You know how people put things like take that on their car
like Love Me Too,
yeah,
and all that kind of thing, like Gia and Me,
right?
You know that kind of thing. Well, your boy had Tongue Bully.
Tongue Bully.
Tongue Bully ain't waiting on no line like that. You see this big wide shoulder? That for him.
Can we please get to this recap of 2018?
Recap it. There's nothing to recap.
Erica wants to get to what she thought was the story of the year, and I'm curious to hear.
Tell me what you thought was the story of the year.
So the story of the year, in my
I thought it was Tongue Bully going down the shoulder.
In my opinion, and this is serious stuff I'm talking about here.
All right.
You know, and it wasn't just the biggest story here. I think it's the biggest story, period.
Okay.
That nobody likes to talk about, that the press doesn't take seriously and doesn't like to report, is climate change and global warming. Right? Yeah. And I know our listeners are going, oh dear.
I think it's important.
But
it
is very concerning to me, and it should be concerning to everybody, especially in this tiny little place. We are among the top 10.
Exactly.
We are among the 10. To see that in black and white is alarming. We are among the top 10 nations most vulnerable to global warming.
And they're telling us
it's not going to happen in 100 years. It's going to happen in our children's and grandchildren's lifetime. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right?
Move.
That is, I guess at this rate, we might have to move. Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that because that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Environmental refugees.
Yeah, we will be refugees. And in fact, not only will we be refugees, the Floridian, that's for yours.
That's you.
The Floridian coast will be refugees.
I mean,
there won't be any coast.
So what do we do about it?
Why, you know, listen, Erica, I think about it and then, you know, I say, you know what, I don't want to bog myself down with it because it's too scary. But, you know, we have to come to accept that there have been major environmental shifts over the course of history. We tend to have this kind of like, you know, thing like, you know, we're so advanced, etc. Listen, an asteroid could come hit us tomorrow. Then we ain't got to worry about no environmental stuff. I mean, I'm just saying these are the kind of seismic, you know, stuff that can happen. I mean, I'm seeing, you know, I think we're the only people in the Caribbean who haven't had an earthquake. They're earthquaking all around us. They had one in Haiti. They had one in Cuba. They had one. In Jamaica, I think. Where was it the other day they had an earthquake? Was it Cuba? Where was it?
I don't.
No, I don't
It
know.
was just
I don't remember.
Where was it the other day? They just had one recently. Well, certainly they had one in Trinidad.
Yeah.
Okay. Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alaska. That was a big one, and that was very
because
rare.
What's happening is you didn't have a fault just because we don't have a fault. What's happening is when a place like Alaska does something, somewhere else gets a fault.
Right.
Or
Right.
if it happens in Haiti, all of a sudden,
Right. I mean, the impact of climate change, if we just look at the intensity of the hurricanes and how that has changed
and the heat
in recent years, right? The heat. I mean, here we are, end of December. It's still 80 degrees.
And I remember in my lifetime, and I'm talking, and I can tell you this, I'll use here an example. I'm very friendly with Erica's family, especially her in-laws, her previous in-laws. And I remember going to Satella's house one Christmas, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
It was like 45 or some. I mean,
But that was only 20. That was only within 20 years ago,
20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, you know what they got for Christmas? Sweaters and tracksuits.
Yes.
Because it was cold.
And remember, you'd go to Junkanoo, you'd have your jacket.
Fellas go with fur coat.
That does not. You don't need any. You could go in a tank top.
That's true.
You can go to Junkanoo in a tank top now.
Fellas used to go. Women used to dress them in the fur coat and the boots.
Jackets.
Boots.
They wear the fur boots
they,
now.
they wear boots.
It's 70 degrees.
Yeah, they wear the boots. Okay, but no, it's not. It's and then you have idiots like my man.
Trump.
Because
it don't exist.
Then it gets cold,
Yeah,
freezing. He goes, you see?
There's no global
There's no
warming.
global warming.
Oh God.
The coldest temperatures ever. He doesn't realize it's an equal thing.
Right. It doesn't. That's not really. That's
That's
how
why
it
he's
works.
supporting it.
But we have the rising sea levels issue
Yeah, that's
here.
what
That's what
freaks me
we're
out.
concerned about.
And you can't stop that one.
Nope, you can't stop
See,
that
I think
one.
by the way, and I'm going to go on
Well,
record.
development.
But I'm going to go on record as saying if you pull some records of shows we've had, I've said long ago that we won't be on the point of return. And you see what's happening with the reports that are coming out now?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew it. You knew that when you see, you now know it's happening. Okay?
It's still not getting
getting
addressed the way it ought to.
There are things that we can do. I don't know if we can reverse it, but we can slow it down, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is there's not that level of awareness and urgency attached to it. What I think
Survival,
is in
that's
our
what's happening.
favor, right? What's in our favor? But that's an issue of survival too, is we are small enough where we can make significant change in a relatively small period of time.
But you got to have some good resources to do that. These are technological. Like this, for instance, in Holland, I don't know if you saw the 60-minute thing on the guy who dealt with flooding, and they even brought him to the States, where Holland has been below sea level for the years.
Right.
They got these scenarios, man, with these big arms and things that no water getting in, and drainage parks, and I mean, it blows you away how organized they are.
But there has to be the will to do it, though, and we could bring in people to do all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
We could bring in people.
Dollars, man.
I know, but that's I mean, that might not be billions and billions of dollars here, but there are things that can be done.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, that day-to-day living, if the government of the Bahamas, listen, this is where we are. We got the IMF breathing down our neck. They don't really care if you're going underwater or not. They talking about the balance of payments and all that kind of stuff and who you owe. Okay? If you say, okay, we're going to divert funds.
Yeah.
Let's just say $500 million. We're going to divert $500 million to a drainage, management, whatever plan. And by the way, as a result of doing that, we need to go to WAT to around about 30%. And, boom, 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 and all that. But that we're thinking 54, 55 years down the road. Okay? We're doing that because we're forward-thinking people. They will last a half an hour.
Right.
Okay? So this is the thing. People who are in a survival mode don't care about tomorrow, let alone 50 years from now. That's the problem we're having. The government of the Bahamas is saying right now, and you talk about moments, about fiscal responsibility, right? The government of the Bahamas is saying, stop. We're changing for the future.
Yeah.
And people are saying, I'm into that.
Right, I don't care, because what happened is, you're trying to make the public service more efficient by paring down, and they're like, wait a second,
I don't. Me.
Right, exactly. So this is affecting me personally.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's all a survival scenario.
Yeah.
That, by the way, that's why we're in the predicament we're in. And you say to yourself, is that the natural order? If you're in a scenario, let's say, the caveman, days, okay, and there's only so much meat, because that was their climate change problem.
Right.
Okay, meat.
Right.
Okay. Well, the meat running out, so I'm gonna have to kill some people off because I need some meat. Okay. So that's how I think we always are, and I think we're gonna always be faced with these challenges of population pressure. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's population pressure. We're going to take a time, and we'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Rogan Smith, who is in Armageddon, going to be okay. Erica Wells-Cox, she'll be okay too.
Well, because I'm friends with Rogan.
Yeah, but the women survive. And me, well...
It's over.
We won't let you.
No, that's
come
why
to
I
any harm.
I think we've repeated this. This is why
That's
why I get, when you look at the car, you see that highway where you saw the LA highway. You saw everyone in the backlog going to try to get away from the bomb. Right. One light going that way. That's me. I going into the bomb. Okay, because I can't make it.
Might as well, right?
Okay. And you have to have a mohawk. I always tell people that if you don't have a mohawk, you can't survive. And see, Ken can make it. Ken is a big dude, muscular. I can't
Strong.
make it. I can't make it, man. I have to find something that I have that the big boss needs.
Like your ascots?
See, that ain't gonna work. And I know where you're going, you nasty little person. Okay, just because she had ass in it. But anyway, I'm gonna be the one who knows where the water supply is.
That's very valuable.
Yeah. Got you. And hopefully they don't torture me. Because then I can say, yeah, this is where it is. Okay.
You have no tolerance for pain.
Listen, if they send me a note saying they're going to torture me, they're going to get a text back saying, let me give you the directions to the water. They don't have to
do you need me to take you there?
Just a threat of the
I could show you.
My mother has the water. Okay. Yeah. No, so climate change was your thing. What about you, Rogan? What was your big concern, globally or locally?
My big concern, or what I felt was the biggest story?
The biggest story, yeah.
I don't know. I think it probably was a toss-up between the OBAN deal and maybe the increase in VAT, and probably more so with the VAT just because of who was increasing it. I've always said, even on this show, that it was a shock for me because I'd seen how Dr. Minnis was so vehemently opposed to it when he sat in opposition, and so it was like a big shock to see him and his administration pushing it, and then hearing on the sidelines people in his own camp saying, I don't support it, and we looking like hypocrites. It got a lot of people talking.
It shows you how when you're running for election. And no one was always with crime, for instance. Everyone wanted to say what they can do with crime, and they really had no control over it. Is if you're running, it's smarter for you to say things like, look, we opposed to the VAT increase, very opposed. But if we have to increase VAT, it means that we're going to have to pull down taxes elsewhere, like duties. So at least when you get into the scenario, you've given yourself enough wiggle room to show that it isn't just black or white, because these things aren't. You don't know.
Right.
In fact, they didn't even know what they were going to meet.
Right.
Precisely.
And they claimed to be very taken aback. They figured it would be bad, but what they met, so they said, was worse.
Yeah.
When you go, I see these countries like Malaysia and stuff, when they find the former prime minister, they get to his house. He has like a basement with billions of dollars in it. They thought, well, okay, we know you was corrupt.
Yeah, really.
Okay, but we didn't know you built a basement for the money. Right. It's like, come on,
So yeah.
So you have to be smart enough to say, look, we don't know what we're going to meet.
Yeah.
It's not our intention to increase VAT, but what our focus is going to be is fiscal responsibility. And if we have to increase VAT because we need to increase revenues, but on the other hand, maybe we can ease the pain on some other revenue source like duties, then people will at least give you that kind
right.
of, yeah.
Right. It's like you say, wiggle room, you know?
Yeah.
But don't lock yourself into anything, and then when you get in, it's
and
tough.
so that's the biggest mistake, really, is the locking yourself in.
Yeah, because you don't know what you're going to experience when you come in, if you get in.
Yeah.
But I mean, in fairness, they did adjust some customs duty.
Yeah, they did. But the people
that
weren't
came
buying
afterwards,
it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it was simultaneous. They did it simultaneous, but people weren't buying it.
And they increased the amount of exemption. But again, people
they hook on to the one thing.
They hook on to the one thing, what they're going to feel most.
But it also goes to show you that people. By the way, one of the things I've realized long ago is I think probably nations like the Bahamas, and there aren't many of this kind of archipelago, I can't say it, island nation, are extremely impossible. I'm not even going to use the word difficult to manage with the expectations we have. You have an island like Cat Island, which has maybe 2,000 people. I don't know how much people they have. They have 2 airports. You have Eleuthera.
Yeah, how many international airports do we have? Yeah, it's. And they all have to meet certain standards. 2 or 3 airports.
Mm-hmm. It's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're in Minneapolis, Minnesota, if you live in Pequot Lakes, you're gonna have to get up around about 1 a.m. to get to the airport in Minneapolis because they don't have no Pequot's International Airport.
Right, but you could get there.
Well, you drive there.
Right, you could drive there.
But no, I'm saying if you
But listen. Here, no, but that's to your point. If you don't have an airport in Cat Island, and the closest airport is Nassau, say.
No, but no. What I'm talking about, why do you have 2 airports in Cat Island?
Right.
Why isn't there one in the middle?
Right.
I mean, how often do you go to the airport? That it's a big deal.
Why are there 3 in Eleuthera?
Yeah, 3 in Eleuthera.
Right.
Okay, I mean, the reality is someone will make money off of a bus or whatever. You're not going to the airport daily. You know what I'm saying? Because if you need to drive to the airport, it takes about an hour to go from Cape Eleuthera to Governor's Harbor. Okay, an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many times are you going to the airport?
That is still long though.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you, there are people who drive. I know my friends who come to visit me from Minnesota. They tell me they get up like 2 a.m. in the morning to drive to the airport to get there for 6, whatever.
Right.
You're not going every day. It takes us an hour to go from where you say from where you live to go to
Eastern
Road to 45 minutes.
That's not distance though. That's traffic.
Well, traffic. I'm just talking about,
totally
but it's
different.
Still time, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter. It's still time. So if you're going to the airport in Eleuthera once a year or twice a year to drive an hour and a half, is it really that dramatic compared to say the money the government has to spend on maintaining 2 airports? And then you complain. See, this is the problem. Okay, fine. You get the 2 airports. Now the road's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or the school's bad because
everything.
the money you can't do it. You can't. Come on. You're so inconvenienced once that you're willing to have bad roads for it or a bad school. Even schools. Now school's a little bit more complicated because you're going every day, right? But even schools, if you had every settlement has a school, so it's a very difficult place to operate, and that's also another reason why BPL is in the situation it is. BPL has told us that they could generate power here for around about 12-15 cents a kilowatt. But then the out ounce would be 80 cents.
Right, we're subsidizing their electricity.
Ken, my friend, what was your you got to get in on this. What was your big story this year? What do you think of? Yeah, you don't have one. Okay, well that's good. That's always good to know. Well, can't say you got none.
Was there a feel good story of the year that you guys? Because we always focus on the negative stuff.
My feel good was Shanae Miller.
Weibo. Mm-hmm.
Weibo.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see that girl run. Also, what's the other guy? Steve Gardner. He kind of waned off a little, but Shanae just dominated the world field. Yeah. And then last night I watched DeAndre Ayton and Buddy Hield. That's when I look at these guys, they're doing the Bahamas proud. That's what I'm really.
What about you, Erica?
I need to think about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there are those little things that have changed our lives, and we just don't care, right? Because that's what we expect.
Well, I have to say this. I think that it's encouraging. I don't know if I'd call it a feel-good story, but certainly some positive news is the crime being down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Kind of hard to feel that when you have 3 double murders.
Right, but keep it in perspective.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So when was the last time that we had? And I don't like to talk about crime in terms of the murder
rate. Numbers of murder, because that's the other thing.
Because that's the other thing, right? Rapes are up, but everything else is down, and that makes me feel a little bit better.
Do you feel safe as the commissioner and the other folks are saying that the fear of crime is down? Do you feel safe? Honestly,
I feel. You're asking both of us or just Erica?
Asking her.
Okay.
I am still very mindful of how I move around.
Right.
I pay attention to my surroundings.
I get the police report every day. We have a big problem in this country, and for one of that is we define crime by our murders. That's number one.
And that's
our murders
accurate.
are not crime, and I want to make sure that people are hearing me about this because I'm not dismissing it.
Explain that.
Our murder problem is a social dysfunction issue. It is not people with criminal intent going out and saying, I'm just going to kill people because they're criminally sick, or serial killers, or robbing people and killing them. These are people where there's social dysfunction, and these are domestic issues that they're solving this way, or gang related, right?
Retaliation.
Do I feel fearful of murder? No, I don't.
I do.
Well, fine.
I do.
But I don't.
And I'm coming from a different place too. I had a brother who was murdered. Right. I've had family members who were murdered. I've been directly impacted by that. Right. And I don't care if someone says it's this gang against this gang and it's a retaliation for over here. I always think about, I hope to God I'm not the person who's caught in the crossfire.
Was your brother caught in the crossfire? Was it
my brother was murdered in the front of my home. Okay. So I've had family members who were killed like that.
Right.
Okay. So for me, I'm in a different headspace. As I'm driving along, I tell you, I am seriously fearful of crime. Mm-hmm. As I'm driving along the streets, I say a prayer from when I leave out of here, going home. I'd be like, please don't let me be driving in my car and I get a stray bullet. Yeah. Like, I honestly say that. Because you just never know if you're going to be caught up in some foolishness.
Well, let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. What would make you feel safer?
If we had 0 murders.
Well, that's not going to happen. So you're never going to feel safe.
I'm not gonna.
No, then that's so we can't use you as the outlier. Right. You're the outlier. We can't use you in the stats.
But you know what? She asked, what would make me feel safe?
That's what I said.
Right.
Yeah,
is there anything else that would make you feel safer? Like, given the fact that nobody can deliver on that.
Yeah. Nowhere in the world.
If you can't give me 0 murders, if you could give me a drastic decrease in murders. Just the other day, I was talking with Jerome Sawyer, and he was saying he remembers.
39% is a big reduction.
He remembers when, and I remember too, like when it was like mind blowing for 40 murders in a year. Right. I used to be mind blowing. How do we get to 40 murders in a year?
People have more guns.
And then now it's like triple digits.
When I was a kid, I don't even know we had 40, okay? Because there were no guns.
Right.
Okay?
I mean, things have changed.
So the reality is, I think about if I go to a party. Okay, and I'm going to be, very candid about this. If I go to a party, if Rogan goes to a party, I'm thinking if you go to a party, you go to a party, chances are, at the party you're going to, just chances, that there's least likely, I'm not saying it's impossible, that some gunplay will happen there. At least I know the party I go to, there's least likely. There are other people who go to parties, there's more likelihood that something's going to happen there. Okay? And it's not a robbery that has happened. It's not someone coming in and saying, who can I kill today? It's how they're handling some personal issue. And yes, you're right. In that scenario, you might be someone who gets lost in a crossfire. Look at the 2 or 3 murders that have happened in the double murders. Mm-hmm. Those were targeted people. Mm-hmm. They were not one person got, caught in a crossfire. They were targeted. And that's not good at all. But that's not crime in my view. And I because we measure crime to me is rape. That's crime.
And armed robbery.
Isn't that targeted? Isn't rape targeted?
Yeah, but it's not like someone who you just had some vindictive issue with.
Right.
It is
it's not retaliation.
Mind, a sick mind. Let's put it this way. Let's use Ken and I as an example. Ken and I would say, are not murderers. okay, by definition. But maybe, and I'll use me as an example as opposed to Ken, maybe Ken does something to me that causes me to snap. Mm-hmm. So I feel that I have to kill Ken. Well, I kill Ken and I'm a murderer, but before that moment, but a rapist is a rapist.
What if it was his first rape?
But then he's going to rape more. I'm not necessarily going to kill more. My issue is with Ken.
I don't know.
Not with anyone else. That's it's they say if you're a rapist, you can always be a rapist. Okay? If you kill someone, it's not that you're going to kill more people.
And there are people who would be in that same position you were in, and Ken does something to you, and they still wouldn't murder them.
I agree.
So maybe a murderer is always a murderer too.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. You put me back on the street. Chances are I'm not going to kill anyone else. There's a chance of that.
I don't know.
Okay, but a rapist, you put them out in the street. It's a twisted thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of
if you have a business, you'll be more concerned about crime.
Right. Well, and I am concerned about crime. I mean, it's why I pay attention to the details for obvious reasons.
Right. You take precautions.
But I think what would make me feel safer, even more safer, is if I know what is being done to protect, to ensure my safety. So if I felt like, the police has this under control, there's CCTV, there's technology that's being used, those sorts of initiatives would make me feel safer, because then I feel like, okay, I'm just not a sitting duck, right?
And in that regard, with the murders that we're having, because we're so focused on that as a police issue, is why we're not solving it.
Right.
Because none of those scenarios are police solvable, preventable. They're solvable, but not police preventable issues. Those are social stuff.
And the thing is the police kind of perpetuate it, because all they do. Yeah. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say all they do. But I think that what gets reported are the murder numbers. Right. And so, and the murder numbers are one thing. But what is farther down in the story when you read the story is, the other crimes are down too. Mm-hmm. But they don't get any focus, and they don't even say what those other crimes are. Yeah. Right. You know, and I know that for me, I think because of my own personal experience, I am a lot more concerned about, like walking out to my car and getting robbed before I get into my car. Right. Or waking up and there's somebody in my house. Right? And so if I knew that the potential robber knew that there was CCTV all over the place, and he wasn't going to go in and mess with that because he didn't want to get caught, that's just an example. That would make me feel safer. The technology. I was in Chile recently. Their CCTV technology is out of this world.
Right, yeah. It's sort of like Britain as well. But it's like, I know this is maybe a bad analogy, but like, let's say you live in the state of Illinois. Well, the murder rate in Chicago is over the top. But you can't say because I live in Illinois, I'm fearful of murder. Or for that matter, even if I live in Chicago.
Right. It's only the south side.
So that's why I think we have done ourselves an injustice by acquainting crime only with murder. To your point about, what about break-ins? What about, rapes? What about armed robberies? Those type of things. Well, listen, we've run out of time. It has been very good having you all.
We should end on a positive note.
The positive note I'm going to say, but you guys go first.
But I raced it, but
You go to the positive thing. Do your positive thing.
I already said my positive thing.
Okay. Positive thing? We can end on a positive note. Anyway, my positive. I just want to say it's been a pleasure for 2018 doing the show. Having Erica and Candy, Kendrick, all of the people who come and contribute and make this show what it is. Jerome, Ace, Carlton, thank you so much to all of them, and of course to all of our listeners. And the people who pay us, the sponsors. Right. Thank you so very much to all of our sponsors. So thank you for making it a wonderful 2018 for me.
Thank you very much, Ken. Let Ken go.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure being behind the scene with you guys, Awaken, and you crack me up. It's never a dull day, Monday and Thursday, sorry. And looking forward to bigger things in 2019, working with you guys again, man.
Yeah. Erica, well, you've been around, but come on.
Yeah, I have been around. It's been a pleasure coming in and out. And thank you for having me.
Do something like Hampton Inn, in and out. So anyway, so listen, guys, it's been wonderful working with you. What I really want to do is wish everyone who's out there a safe and happy holiday. And some of that you can control. Watch what you're doing when you're drinking and driving. Yeah. Don't put yourself in that danger. And one thing that Mr. Ferguson did say, it's just, watch the company you keep. I mean, I think there's some value in that. Our parents told us that from when we were little kids, right? And so just be safe, stick with your family. Stick with your family and your friends, your close friends. Have a good time and enjoy yourself. So we'll see you next year. Yeah. There you go. We'll see you next year.